I never meant to stop there. Truth is, I shouldn't have even been driving that day. It was supposed to be a detour, just some forgotten back road cutting through the middle of nowhere. The GPS had frozen about 30 minutes earlier, and I didn't recognize a single sign anymore. That's when I saw the curve. And just beyond it, a house. It sat cloaked in thick trees, like the forest itself was trying to hide it. Weather-beaten wood. A sagging porch. The front door hung slightly open, creaking with the breeze even though it didn't touch the ground. I stopped the car. I don't know why. Maybe it was curiosity. Or maybe it was the strange, creeping feeling that it was waiting for me. And before you ask, no, it wasn't exactly abandoned. There were things inside. A couch draped in a gray sheet. A table stained with old cup rings. The air smelled like damp wood and clothes that had been shut away for far too long. It was dirty, but not empty. It felt frozen, as if someone had stepped out for just a moment and never came back. At first, I thought maybe it was one of those forgotten herbs, some hidden gem I'd stumbled into by accident. But when I pulled out my phone to search for the place, there was no signal. Nothing loaded. No maps, no listings. Just a blank browser screen. Offline. Off the grid. Off the map. I looked around. The chirping of crickets. The rustle of branches clashing in the wind. And something deep inside me whispered, "Stay." Maybe it was because I was tired. Maybe because the world outside hadn't made sense since I lost my brother. Since the dream started. Or maybe, and I swear this is the truth, maybe the house wanted me to stay. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but you weren't there. You didn't hear it. I decided to spend the night. There was a bed upstairs. An old mattress but still solid. I changed the sheets with some I found folded in a closet that reeked of mothballs. Closed the windows. Drank a little water from the tap. It tasted metallic, like I was swallowing some old secret that had been buried too long. And I lay down. But I couldn't sleep. No matter how hard I tried, I wasn't tired. I tossed and turned. The silence outside was thick, too thick. Oppressive. Even the crickets had gone quiet. And then, the house started to breathe. Have you ever heard a house breathe? It's subtle. A soft creak in the ceiling. A groan in the floorboards. A faint exhale from behind the walls. But it wasn't just that. It felt like the house was waiting for me to let my guard down. Like the moment I closed my eyes, something inside it could finally move. That night I kept my eyes open. 4 hours. And every time I started to doze off, I'd feel this chill rising from the mattress, like a cold hand brushing against my back. At exactly 3 a.m. I heard footsteps downstairs. Slow. Dragging. I froze. Held my breath. "Hello?" I called out. Nothing. I went downstairs using the flashlight on my phone. The living room was empty. Everything exactly where it had been. Except the rug. It was crooked. And there were barefoot prints leading away from it. Like someone had just gotten up. I went back upstairs. Lay down but never slept. At 5 a.m. the sky began to lighten. And for the first time the house went quiet. Like it only existed at night. Like once the sun touched the windows, everything inside retreated. Maybe I should have left right then. But I didn't. I stayed. And on the second night, something changed. The day was strange. Not bad, just empty. I walked around the house trying to figure out exactly where I was. No signs of neighbors. No busy roads nearby. Just trees, distant hills, and the constant sound of wind rustling through the leaves, like it was whispering things I couldn't quite understand. It felt like the forest didn't want me to leave. I got back to the house before sunset. Something about it made it feel wrong to stay out too long. Like the darkness that lived inside started to spread at dusk. And I didn't want to be outside when that happened. Once night fell, I got everything ready to sleep early. Closed every window. Locked the front door. Even wedged a chair up against it just in case. Upstairs, I set the flashlight beside me. Took off my shoes. lay down, and waited. For a few minutes, everything felt normal. The sound of crickets, leaves rustling in the wind. But then, 3 knocks, dry, evenly spaced, coming from above. I stared up, lungs frozen. There wasn't an attic. At least, not that I'd seen. I sat up, grabbed the flashlight, pointed it at the ceiling. Nothing. But the sound. It wasn't exactly coming from above. It was coming from inside the ceiling. Like something was between the floors. Crawling. Slithering through the walls. I lay back down but didn't turn the flashlight off. And that's when I heard the second thing. A whisper. Faint. Drawn out. Way too close. S.E. You're not supposed to sleep here? My entire body went cold. The voice wasn't male. It was a woman's voice. One. Like it had come from someone who hadn't spoken in decades. I shot up, gasping, eyes darting around the room. The beam of my flashlight shook in my hand. I checked the closet, the bathroom, under the bed. Nothing. But the whisper had been real. I felt its breath against my ear. I ran downstairs trying to make sense of what was happening. Turned on every light I could. But the house felt darker, like the bulbs were struggling against something bigger than the night itself. And then, something happened that I can't explain. Every light in the house flickered at the same time. Once, twice, 3 times. And then, darkness. I stood there in the middle of the living room. Flashlight trembling in my grip. Heart hammering against my ribs. That's when I heard the footsteps. Coming from upstairs. Slow. Uneven. Like someone was dragging themselves. Or feeling their way barefoot, trying to understand the floor beneath them. Who's there? I called out, my voice cracking. Silence. 3 more steps. I thought about running. Just bolting out the front door. But my feet, they wouldn't move. It was like the house had its hands around my ankles, holding me there, forcing me to listen. Suddenly, the flashlight began to flicker. The beam stuttered, and for a second, just 1 second, I aimed it at the staircase, and I saw a hand. Just a hand resting on the side of the railing. Thin, pale, fingers far too long. Then the light blinked again, and it was gone. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step groaning beneath me like it was protesting. The bedroom looked exactly as I'd left it, untouched. But on the sheet, there was an impression, like someone had been lying there, next to me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the floor until the sky began to lighten. And when the sunlight spilled through the window, the house seemed to relax again, like the night belonged to it, and the day was just a pause. I thought about leaving, really thought about it, but then I convinced myself it was just exhaustion, stress, the tricks of a sleepless mind. It's incredible how easily we explain the impossible, when we're too scared to accept that it might be real. The next morning, I found a crack in the hallway wall, behind a painting, and inside it was something that shouldn't have been there. A notebook. The cover was worn, the pages yellowed with time. It was filled with sentences, all written in the same shaky handwriting. She wakes me. Don't sleep. She comes in when you dream. The house is hers. Don't be next. Signed at the end of the last page. Claire. From the moment I found that notebook, everything changed. It felt like, by opening those pages, I had given something permission to see me back. Like the house had been asleep, and now it was awake and hungry. The notebook had been hidden behind an old painting, hanging by 2 bent nails. When I pulled the frame down, the wall behind it was cracked, like someone had tried to pry it open. And inside, shoved into a dark hole between the plaster and the beams, was there. The pages were damp but still readable. The handwriting was tight, suffocated, as if written in a rush, by someone terrified. And the name Clara appeared on nearly every page. Clara said she'd let me sleep. She lied. She doesn't want anyone to rest. She needs us to stay awake. When you dream, she uses your body. She comes in through your breath. I heard her crawling inside the walls. Always at night. Always near the bed. Claire. The name echoed like something trapped inside the bones of the house. Something forgotten, but not silent. I started paying closer attention to the walls, the corners, the whispers that seemed to seep from within the plaster. And that's when I realized the house was never truly quiet. Even in total stillness, if I just held my breath for a few seconds, I could hear it, behind the walls. Something scratching, like long nails dragging against wood. I began walking around with my ear pressed to the surfaces, and I heard things, breathing, short sharp laughs, sometimes knocking, like someone was trapped on the other side, and other times, words, whispered, like they were being spoken with lips pressed right to my ear, but from inside the wall. He's getting weaker. Soon he'll sleep. Soon she'll come in. I started ripping pieces of wallpaper off, scraping chunks of plaster away with my car key, and the house reacted. Light bulbs exploded. Doors slammed shut on their own. The temperature dropped suddenly, like someone had opened an invisible freezer right behind me. But the scariest part wasn't the sounds. It was what I found inside the back bedroom wall. A hollow space, just big enough for a person. Like a niche, dug out by hand. And inside it, photos. Dozens of them. Yellowed, torn. Faces scratched out. All except one. A woman. A pale face. Dark hair tied in a bun. Eyes locked onto mine. Even in black and white. On the back of the photo, in the same trembling handwriting from the notebook. Clara. The first who tried to sleep here. I stood frozen, staring at it. The other photos showed different people. Men, women, children. But they all had one thing in common. They were inside the house. In some of them you could see the same couch, the same staircase, the same filthy kitchen curtain. And they all ended the same way. The backs of the photos read, left screaming, jumped out the window, broke his arm trying to escape, never managed to leave, just stopped talking, vanished. Clara liked him. That's when I started to understand. The house didn't want guests. It wanted witnesses, people who stayed awake, long enough for Clara to move, because in sleep, she came in. That night, I didn't even try to sleep. I sat in the hallway clutching a kitchen knife, flashlight aimed at every shadow. But it didn't protect me from what came next. At 2:48 a.m. I heard a sound, one that didn't seem to come from any logical part of the house. Crying, soft, held back, coming from inside the wall of my bedroom. And with it, a voice that shattered any rational explanation. Are you going to write your notebook too? I looked around, unsure how to react. The wall began to tremble. Slightly, but enough to feel it. Like something was pressing through from the other side. Like Clara was using both hands to push the world of the dead into this one. I ran, stumbled down the stairs, rushed to the front door. But the door, it was locked. From the inside. I was outside, but the key was still in my pocket. And none of the locks had been turned. It was like the house had locked itself. I spent the rest of the night in my car, staring at the house through the windshield, headlights off. But even from that distance, even in the dark, I saw it. From the upstairs window between the curtains, someone was watching me. The next morning, I made the only decision that made sense. I was going to leave. Not out of fear. Not out of superstition. But because my body couldn't take it anymore. I hadn't slept in over 2 days. My eyes were burning. My thoughts blurred. My heart pounding in my throat like it was warning me, something is about to break. I threw my things into the car. Turned the key in the ignition. Nothing. Not a click. Not even a struggle to start. The engine was dead. Battery brand new. Everything just silent. Then for one brief moment the radio lit up. By itself. And played just one thing. A deep static. Like a dead channel. But buried inside it, a voice. Whispering. The same voice from the second night. Clara's voice. I shut everything off and went back inside. That's when it hit me. The house wasn't going to let me leave. Not until I'd finally fallen asleep. Not until she had entered. And the worst part was, I was starting to want to sleep. Desperately. My eyelids felt like sandbags. Every step was like sinking into mud. The house was wearing me down. Beating me through exhaustion. I found sleeping pills in my backpack. I'd bought them days before the trip, hoping to sleep better at the hotel. No, they felt like an invitation. I sat at the edge of the bed, holding a glass of water in one hand, the bottle open in the other. Looked out the window. Outside, the sky was beginning to fade, as if the world itself was closing its eyes with me. I swallowed 2 pills, lay back, and waited. Sleep came fast, like drowning. No transitions, no dreams, just darkness. No, she appeared. In the dream, if that's what it was, I was exactly where I'd fallen asleep. Same bed. Same dim light through the window. Same distant creaks from the house. But now, there was a presence. At first, just an outline. A silhouette standing in the bedroom doorway. So, motionless. Then it started to move. Slowly. Silently. Gliding, like it wasn't touching the floor. Her face had no details. Just eyes. Huge, black, empty. The rest. It was like a mold. An unfinished shape. And when she got close enough, She climbed into the bed. And I heard, not with my ears but inside my skull, like a thought that didn't belong to me. Now you're mine. I tried to move. I couldn't. Frozen. Paralyzed. A scream lodged in my throat, while she breathed into me. And then, in a violent spasm, I woke up, gasping, soaked in sweat, shaking. But I wasn't in the bed anymore. I was on the kitchen floor, with handprints around my neck. And my eyes, they were bleeding. No, not blood. Black. Like ink. Like something leaking from inside me that was no longer human. The house was silent, but it was a heavy silence. Present. Alive. The clock on the wall read 3:03 a.m. But the hands, they were turning backward, slowly. And that's when I heard it again. 3 knocks. But this time, they came from inside my head. As if Clara had entered. As if the dream was only the door. I turned on the flashlight. The beam was weaker than before. Shaking. I walked to the bathroom mirror. And I swear on everything that's real. My reflection didn't follow me. It looked at me. Yes, the eyes were mine. But the movements weren't. My right hand was trembling. The reflections wasn't. And when I raised my hand to touch the glass, it smiled. I didn't. I ran. I fell. I got back up, grabbed my backpack, and without thinking, slammed through the front door. This time, it opened. And suddenly I was on the road. In the dark. No memory of how I got outside. Behind me, the house looked smaller. Darker. Like it had pulled back. Like it was satisfied. I walked for miles before I got a signal. A truck driver found me the next morning. He said he saw me walking barefoot on the side of the road, mumbling words he couldn't understand. I didn't remember any of that. All I remembered was the dream. And Clara's eyes. And that last sentence whispered right before I woke up. You dreamed of me. Now you're mine. You're probably asking yourself, if the house was that dangerous, why did you go back? And the answer is simple. I didn't choose to go back. When I woke up in the hospital, 2 days after being found on the highway, they told me I'd suffered from extreme exhaustion, dehydration, and a nervous breakdown. The doctors asked if I was running from something, if I had a psychiatric history, if someone had drugged me. I said yes. I said the house drugged me. The house took me to Clara. They placed me under observation. I spent 3 nights there, without dreaming. But on the 4th night, she came to me, even far from the house, even under sedation. I saw her. This time she didn't come as a shadow. She came as a woman, with a face, beautiful even if you could ignore the fact that her eyes never blinked. She sat next to my hospital bed and whispered, "You really thought walking out the door was enough? You brought the house with you." I woke up screaming. And in that moment I knew for sure. She marked me, like a number scratched into a prison wall, like a crack in a mind that's no longer holding together. They discharged me a few days later. I went back to the city, tried to rebuild some version of a normal life. But the signs came back, mirrors fogging up on their own, knocking on my apartment wall, always at 3:03 a.m. Nightmares where Clara wore clothes I'd never seen before, until I found those same outfits in old archive photos. That's when I decided to dig deeper. I searched for records, old documents, news articles, and I found what I never should have found. The house was a reconstruction. A century ago there was an asylum on that land. It was called Clara V. White Rest Home. Clara Vasquez, resident patient, diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and something else. Unusual dissociative abilities during sleep states. Dissociative abilities. In the reports, she was labeled as an inverted sleeper. Someone who, according to disturbing handwritten medical notes, woke up inside other people's dreams. Yeah, you read that right. They said that when Clara dreamed, she didn't just appear in the dreams of other patients. She controlled them, bent their sleep into landscapes of her own making, places where she ruled. One by one, patients started refusing to sleep. They said Clara was waiting for them. 3 died of acute insomnia. 2 committed suicide. And a doctor, the only one who tried to intervene, vanished without a trace. Clara died in a fire that destroyed the asylum. But her body was never found. The charred remains of the wing where she slept were used as the foundation of the new house. The same house I slept in. The same house where she entered me. Do you understand now? The house doesn't want you to fall asleep inside it out of some malevolent mercy. It wants you to leave before you sleep. Not because it's protecting you, but because once you sleep, it stops being a prison and becomes a portal, a vessel, A body. Your body. But here's what the house doesn't tell you. If you dream too deeply, you don't come back. And Clara takes your place. In the world. In your skin. In your life. Now, I don't know anymore if I'm the one who's awake, or just another one of her dreams. Sometimes I see reflections that move differently than I do. Strangers greet me like they've met me before. I've gotten texts on my phone with my own name misspelled. And last night, while brushing my teeth, I heard laughter from the mirror. It was my voice, but it wasn't me laughing. And then I heard it again. That whisper. You dreamed of me. Now you're mine. That night I made a decision. I'm going back. Not because I was brave. Not because I wanted answers. But because deep down I knew. Either I ended this, or she would hollow me out from the inside. Slowly. I wasn't sleeping anymore. Barely eating. My memories were starting to slip. Dates blurred together. Sometimes I said things I didn't remember later. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection in the mirror, and my lips would be moving on their own. Yeah, I had to go back to the house and force the dream, face her, or be taken once and for all. I arrived just before nightfall. The house was exactly as I remembered it. No trace of my last escape. No broken doors. No hidden notebooks. It was as if it had reset itself. I stepped in with my backpack. This time I came prepared. Flashlights, cameras, meds, a crucifix, even though I didn't believe in anything, and an audio recorder, which I kept running the entire time. I locked every door, shut all the windows, and made the bedroom ready. I wanted her to come. No more running. I needed to see how far she would go. On the nightstand, I left the bottle of pills open. 2 tablets in the palm of my hand. She was already there. I could feel it. The air grew heavy. The temperature dropped. The walls were damp as if they were sweating someone's breath. I swallowed the pills with lukewarm water, laid down, closed my eyes, and surrendered to sleep. The transition was subtle. At first I felt my body sinking. Then the familiar sound returned. Knocks. 3. Always 3. But now, they echoed from inside my skull. The room looked the same, but wrong. The bed was larger. The walls farther away. Time felt frozen. And there she was, standing in the doorway, unblinking, wearing white, barefoot, Claire. But now, she had my face. She walked toward me, slowly. And this time she didn't speak. She just climbed onto the bed and laid on top of me, body to body. I couldn't move. Her heat ran through me like a fever. And her eyes, they were like mirrors, bottomless. Now you sleep in my place. And then she inhaled deeply, and stepped inside. It felt like being born in reverse. I felt my mind being pushed out, as if my own consciousness were being evicted from the body, leaving behind a shell. I tried to scream. I tried to fight. But my body was no longer mine. Clara opened my eyes, using my face, smiling with my mouth. You dreamed of me, now I am you. And then, I woke up, but not where I expected. I was outside the house, on the road, again. Only this time, it was daytime, and my body ached like it had been torn out and shoved back in the wrong way. I stood up, stumbling, my nose bleeding and my eyes heavy. Looked around, the car was still there, untouched. But in my pocket there was a note, handwritten. Thank you for letting me sleep. With love, Clara. I looked into the rearview mirror, froze, watched, and noticed something off. Something just slightly wrong with my eyes. Like someone was still learning how to wear my face. It's been 3 weeks since I came back. Since someone else did. At first I thought it was over. I tried to go back to normal. Eating, sleeping, talking to people. But something was wrong. With me. With them. My friends looked at me differently. That kind of smile you give when you recognize someone, but realize something's off. Small details began to crack. I paid for something at the store and signed my name. The cashier looked and said, "You don't usually write it like that." I ran into an ex on the street. He hugged me, then whispered, "You seem different. Your voice, it's lower now." But the worst was my mom. She stared at me, long and hard, then asked, "Are you sure you're you?" Since then, I've been trying to keep records, recording my voice, writing my thoughts, waking up every day and repeating my name, my ID, my address, like a ritual. Some nights I wake up on the floor. Some nights the food on the stove is burned, and I don't remember cooking. And sometimes, when I pass by mirrors, the reflection smiles before I do. Lately, the apartment walls have started making noises in the middle of the night. 3 sharp cracks. Always 3. You know what that means, don't you? She's still here. Or maybe, I never left. Maybe the version writing this now is just a trace. A final imprint of me resisting. Maybe Clara doesn't take over all at once. Maybe she needs you to accept it, little by little. One gesture at a time. A memory misplaced. A sentence you don't remember saying. And what's left of you fades away. Like scribbled out words in an old, forgotten journal. Now I sleep less. But when I do sleep, I go back to the house. Yes, in the dream I'm always there. And everything's just how it was. The couch, the curtain, the notebook, and on the wall, a new photo has appeared. Mine. No eyes, no name. Just one sentence written beneath it. It's already Clara. So if you're hearing this, if you've made it this far, know that this isn't just a story. It's a warning. And maybe a cry for help. Because maybe there's still a part of me fighting. Maybe there's still time. If this video goes offline, if this channel disappears without explanation, or if you find more recordings like this one, stay away from the house. But more than anything else, don't sleep there. Because the house doesn't kill you. It gives you back, different. And sometimes, you don't even notice. If this unsettled you, just imagine what's coming in the next stories. Comment below, I heard the whispers if you made it to the end. And if you're still, subscribe. But do it at your own risk.